Hello guys, it's your boy JT Vegs on a new segment in our channel, which is a tier list of heroes in Marvel Super War, featuring the tanks. Let's go! So welcome back guys. So just a disclaimer guys, I just want to inform you that this tier list is just gonna be based on my opinion. So if you have something to share or point out guys, please put them down in the comment section so that I'll be able to read them and share my thoughts as well. So if you like this kind of content guys, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so that you're gonna be informed on the next tier list video. So to start off guys, I have 4 categories on how I'm gonna be ranking the tanks. So it's gonna be the difficulty, how they initiate, sustainability, and how they disable other heroes. Alright, so those are the 4 categories that I'm looking at as a tank role in Marvel Super War. So basically guys, there are 10 tanks on the roster so far. So it's not gonna be a long video guys because we only have 10 tanks to put on the tier list. So remember guys, the categories is the difficulty, how they initiate, how they survive, and how they disable other heroes. Alright, so we have the tanks here guys, so I'm just gonna be reading them, not really in order, but how they are listed in this tier list. So there is Call Obsidian, Groot, Colossus, Heimdall, Incredible Hulk, Namor, Ronan, Sandman, Squirrel Girl, and The Thing. Right, so there are 10 tanks guys. So we have the tier class, which is the S, which is the really good tanks, followed by the A, B class, C class, and lastly the D class. Alright, so remember guys, the categories, difficulty of how we're gonna be using the tank, how they initiate into combat, how they sustain, because they are basically tank, they are supposed to receive all the damage when it comes to team fights, right? And how they disable or crowd control the other heroes in order for your team to be able to do damage on the other team, right? So to start off guys, let's see, I'm not gonna be doing this alphabetically. I'm just gonna be doing this how I see the first image, which is called Obsidian, or how I read the names. So that was the order that they are being displayed on this I'm not quite sure, a browser I think. So the first one is called Obsidian, guys. Call Obsidian. So hmm Call Obsidian, based on the category, guys. Basing on the category, Call Obsidian doesn't really, uh, isn't really that difficult to use because, hmm, it's harder than I thought how to put the tier list or how to put the tanks on a specific I don't know how to speak specific tier. Okay, so Call Obsidian is not really hard to use. The only difficult part, or the only difficult part you're gonna be having with Call Obsidian is his ultimate and his first skill, because those are skill shots, and I mean his skill one is a skill shot, and you really need to aim or predict where your enemy goes. Hmm. Alright, so the difficulty, let's just say he's not really a beginner hero. To be honest, he's not a beginner hero. Especially how you're gonna be using his ultimate, and also his second skill, the stomp, which he gains a shield. The third skill is pretty basic because how you play Call Obsidian is by the combo that you perform, like his skill 1, then skill 3, and skill 2, all of those stuff. So difficulty, he's not really that difficult to use, and he's not easy to use at as well. So I'm just gonna be putting him on a normal difficulty. Normal difficulty, because I'm basing, if they're easy to use, then they're more likely to be on top, right? Easy to use. So for now, based on the difficulty, I think he's gonna be on the B side. B side. And then for the second category, how Call of Duty doesn't really have an initiate skill. The hook skill or his first skill isn't really an initiate. Those are just pulling enemy teams one at a time. So it's not really how the initiate team fights. I mean, it could be a start of an initiate by eliminating one of the members of the opposing team. But on a team fight is not really that effective. It's not really that effective because you're just gonna be able to pull one enemy, and you really need to pull a specific enemy to maximize the damage potential that you're gonna be doing to that enemy that you pull. For example, if you're gonna be pulling up a tank, it's not really that helpful because might as well the tank will survive when Call Obsidian pull them. And remember guys, Call Obsidian doesn't pull the enemy all the way. Call Obsidian is gonna be going to the enemy as well. So they're gonna be pulling each other. So there's a downside as well if Call Obsidian is able to hook a certain enemy because Call Obsidian is gonna be pulling himself towards the enemy team as well. So I'll stick him to B because the initiate is not really that overwhelming, like like a shock and awe initiate. Okay. So sustainability, um, the only shield that he gets is from his stomp, right? Skill 2. That's it. That's actually it. He doesn't have any life gain, if I'm not mistaken. If I miss some certain passive skill, guys, just let me know. As far as I know, the only shield that he gets is from his second skill, which is the stomp. He doesn't get shield from the hook, from the toss, and from his ultimate. I think he doesn't gain shield from his ultimate. I think he goes down to C. Because if you're a tank, guys, as much as possible, you can sustain all the damage that the enemy team can dish out on you. Without having sustain or a shield, you could easily die and they could easily burst you down without you having an impact on the other team. Right. So, okay, so disable. So next, for the how he disables the other heroes. He, he only disables them when they tossed the other hero towards his back. And the hook, the hook is really there's a pro and there's a con as well because Call of Duty is gonna be pulled towards the enemy as well. Hmm. And his ultimate isn't. I mean, his ultimate is best for saving allies or disrupting team fights. It's not mainly to use for damage, but um, more or less to push enemies toward your team and then keeping the other teams at bay because you're pushing them. For example, because the combo of Call of Duty is when you hook them, you toss them at your back, and then you do the ultimate so that you'll create a distance from the enemy that you've tossed at your back and to his allies. Because when you use your ultimate, they're gonna be pushed back, so there is a distance between the enemy that you toss at your back and his allies which you've pushed farther away so that they cannot respawn or go to the enemy that you just tossed. That's basically it. It's not really mainly for damage, but for zoning out enemies or pushing them back and pushing them towards your enemy. And it's really a situational skill. His ultimate is really situational. I think I'm gonna be putting Call of Sindian at the at the C at the C list. As a C tier. Yep. Alright. Yeah, I think that's final. The C tier. Okay, so next guys, I thought this video is not gonna be a long video, but I think it's gonna be a long video because I wasn't expecting this to be that hard. Because I really didn't practice this guys because I'm just basing it on how I know the heroes. So please bear with me. Right, so second tank would be Groot. Okay, Groot. Hmm. Difficulty is not really that difficult to use. Let's just put all the tank starting at the mid and then let's just categorize them as we go along. So Groot is not really that difficult to use. Uh, his hook is better than Call Obsidian because Groot's hook is totally pulling them towards Groot. Compared to Call Obsidian, you're gonna be pulling each other at the center. So that's a negative side of Call Obsidian without the negative side when it comes to Groot. And also the passive of Groot is that you can crowd control the person you just hook. I mean, yeah, same with Call of Obsidian. You can put them or you can toss them at your back, but you can only toss one enemy, right? You can only toss one enemy. But for Groot, if you pulled one enemy, your passive would trigger for you to do a knock up attack, which can hit multiple enemies, and yeah, can it can hit multiple. It's sort of a crowd control as well. Okay. The only difficult part here for Groot is how you do his. He's not really that difficult to use because the only skill that you're having for Groot is your skill 1, the hook. The skill 2 is not really that like difficult to use because that's just a speed boost. Yeah, that's just a speed boost. Remember, he got revamped. Now he has only 3 skills. The hook. I mean, yeah, it changed. So the knock up attack is now a passive compared before when it is an active skill. So yeah. So the difficulty, yes, I won't change it. He's an easy hero. Difficulty not really that hard. Initiate. How he initiate? Same as Call Obsidian, but the downside for Call Obsidian, as I mentioned, is that both of you are gonna be pulled at the center. But for Groot, you're just gonna be pulling the enemy. Yeah, you're gonna be pulling the enemy all the way to Groot, so which is a good side. So I'm just gonna be putting him on the B tier list for the initiate. His initiate is not really that impactful as well. Yeah, like what I mentioned earlier, like a shock and initiate, it's not really that impactful because you're just gonna be pulling one enemy. So yeah, so I'm gonna be remaining him at B tier. Sustainability. Hmm. During team fights, he doesn't have a sustain. He only sustains when he is on the bush. He has lesser time to, I mean, he doesn't need to go to the base, which is a good side. He can always stay on the bush to regain health unlimited times. You just need to stay in the bush. But during team fights, like how you start a battle, he doesn't really have a sustain. You only have, I mean, you can give shield to your team. However, that's if Groot is going or is about to die. And his ultimate really, I mean, the ultimate before, if his ultimate was not changed, I could put him in tier tier A because of his ultimate. Because remember who's his ultimate when he roots all the enemy around him? I could easily put him on tier list A, but they changed it into a consistent damage, but not really that powerful unless you build him up as a damage tank. So I'm just gonna be putting him or remaining him as a B as a B class or a tier B. Yep, I'm just putting him at tier B. No, I think I'm gonna put because checking the final how they disable the enemy hero. I think both of them are an equal state because Call Obsidian can do a toss. He can do a knock up. Both of them have hooks. Um, their ultimate isn't really impactful during team fights. But probably if Groot was not revamped, he still has his root. I think he could be on the B tier. If his ultimate did not change, I could put him in the B tier. But they changed it, so I'm gonna be putting him on the C tier. Right. So next would be Colossus. So our battle pass Colossus. So difficulty, yes, he's a bit difficult to master. I'm basing this for an inexperienced MOBA player, guys. An inexperienced MOBA player. So Colossus is gonna be more or less on the difficult side, but not really that difficult, but on the difficult side. So I'm gonna be putting him here because if they are very difficult to use, I'm gonna be putting them on the D tier. But cause it's a bit difficult to use, not really meant for really new players, so I'm gonna putting him in the C first. Difficult because um, you need to trigger a lot of his skills before you can activate some of his skills, right? So what I mean is that if to trigger or to take effect his first skill, which is the punching both of his arms, you need to maximize how the skill works when you hit multiple enemies, right? Uh, if you don't, of course, you can still maximize it by pulling the enemy towards you. But the best part of using the first skill is to hit multiple enemies so that they could be knocked down, right? So that's a difficult task to do. If you have multiple enemies around you and then you need to aim which enemy to target, especially the enemy heroes. Skill 2, it's pretty basic because there are two stages of the skill. The first one is the punch, and then the second is the how the wrestling move, or I'm not really sure, or I don't remember how it's called, but it's a two-stage skill. Easy enough to use. Easy enough to use. But the ultimate here is really situational because you need to trigger your skills first before it can be activated. And new players is gonna be having a hard time doing it. That's why I'm putting him on the C tier. He's not really that difficult to use, but for new players, he is a bit difficult compared to the other two here, right? Compared to the other two. I mean, he is difficult to use uh, to maximize his usage, to maximize how the potential of Colossus is on a team fight. He is difficult to maximize, or he is difficult to maximize the usage of Colossus when it comes to team fight. So the difficulty is C tier for me. But his initiate is not re. I mean, the initiate is situational because you can initiate a team fight, but you need to use a blink skill. Yes, you need to blink. You need to use a blink. So in this case, guys, there's no condition, so we can't use the blink skill. Basically, his initiate is really not that strong because you can see Colossus from a mile away if you know that he is going for your team. He's going for your team because yes, he does a speed boost from his skill 2, but you need to really align it properly to use his skill 1. Like I think that's his initiate, or mainly that's his initiate attack. Because when it comes to team fights, he can really disable the whole team. He could knock down all the team members from the opposing team if he hits all 5 of them. And his skill 1 has a good area of effect. But a very difficult task because you really need to aim all 5 of them in that rectangular area of effect. So the initiate is still C. I'll remain him at C. His sustainability though, first of all, he has a passive, 3 bars, which reduces incoming attacks. And he gains shield when he is able to use his ultimate. And remember that he can initiate it twice. He can use his ultimate twice. So he has good sustain. I mean, he can survive a battle long enough for you to be able to eliminate all the enemies. Colossus has that potential. Colossus has that potential. So for the sustainability, I think he's gonna be moving up the B tier because if you're a tank, guys, the main reason for a tank is to survive all the damage, right? And to create much chaos when it comes to team fight. Like disabling all the team members, disabling all the carries in order for your team to take advantage of those moments. Because if you don't have a sustain, like if the tank enters the battle and I mean even though they get a good initiate, but when they get to the battle, remember that he is the main target if he initiates a fight because he's the first one in the center of the battle. So if that's the case, he needs to survive all the damage that the enemy team would dish out on him. So as much as possible, the important thing for a tank to do is survive those uh, those attacks from the incoming enemies or the attacks from that's coming from the enemies. So I think he has a good sustain, good sustain enough. Um, but the problem here is that it's situational because once what if you can't able to how do you say this? What if you're not able to do the ultimate? Then you don't have the sustain, you don't have the shield, then more or less that you are useless. So I'm putting him back at C. because it's really conditional. Your Colossus sustainability is situational because until you can until you can activate your ultimate, then that's how you're gonna be able to sustain some of the damages. But if you're not able to activate your ultimate, then you're a sitting duck on the enemy team side. So I think I'm putting him back on C. If you can freely activate his ultimate, if you can freely activate his ultimate without any conditions, then I'm gonna be putting him on B. But his ultimate is situational. You need to activate you need to activate the ultimate first before you can use it. So I'm putting him in C. Yep. I'm putting him in C. Right. So for disabling, may Colossus 2 disable all of his skill can disable actually. His ultimate can disable once you've elbow drop them. You can knock them down using your second skill, and you can knock them down again using your first skill. So basically, if you are trying to kill somebody but an enemy Colossus is nearby, the tendency is you're not gonna be having much luck because Colossus is gonna be disabling you most of the time. I think I think he has a good disable or crowd control, guys. Even though it's just a single target, I mean, for skill 1, skill 2 is single target, but those are still disabled, guys. He can purely he can purely save an ally or keep the enemies at bay while your allies are killing what Colossus is trying to disable. Yeah, I'm putting him in B. I think he's in B. Okay. Next would be Heimdall. Uh-huh. Difficulty. Hmm. It's not really that difficult because for the first kill, which is when he throws. I'm not quite sure. Is it the first? His first kill is how he throw the sword, right? His first kill is the 3 attacks, right? Not really that difficult to use. Just just press it thrice and then you can attack the enemy thrice. And it has a slow. He has good mobility, which is good for initiate. And and if you hit all the enemies where your sword is, that's gonna be a knocked up for them. Knocked up for them, and you can slow them, and you can hit them You can hit them all at the same time. Because his skill 1, how the 3 attacks, it has a good range. Not difficult to use. The only difficult part to use is his ultimate. Yeah, his ultimate because you really need to know. You really need to know when you could benefit the passive of his ultimate. I mean, it has a damage, but remember, guys, in order for you to proc the healing of his ultimate, you need to kill it with your ultimate. So the difficult part there is how you're gonna be gauging the life of your enemy and when to activate your ultimate, which needs practice. So skill 1 and skill 2 is not really that difficult. The only difficult part for Heimdall is his ultimate. So putting him on B. Initiate, he has good initiate as well, which is he throws his sword, but the only thing is that it's a two part initiate. You can throw the sword, which can throw the you can throw the sword, but that only gives signal to the enemy whether you're gonna be charging in or not. I mean, it's good for mind games. And also, guys, the sword gives shield to the enemy it gives shield to your allies as well. But the category is whether, or the category is how to initiate, or if they have a good initiate. It has a good initiate, but the the downside is that you're giving them a warning by throwing your sword. Yes, it's good for mind control. Not mind control, but mind games. Like if you're just you know, joking around, or am I going in, or I'm just fooling around, things like those. I mean, it's also part of the game, but ini initiating wise, it's a good initiate because it has a good range, but it has a downside as well because you're giving out a signal that I'm coming in because they know that your sword is there. I mean, you know it when you see Heimdall or you can fight Heimdall. You know that when the sword is there, you know that you're gonna be stepping out because Heimdall might come in or might not. So that's the impact of Heimdall's sword when he throws it. So okay, I'm putting him at B. I'm maintaining him at B. I mean, it's not really that good that I'm putting him on A. It's not really that bad as well that I'm good putting in C. So I'm just putting him or remaining him at B. Sustainability. He has a shield when he goes to or together with initiate, which is a good sign because when you initiate a team fight or in any other initiate, it's a good thing that he gains a shield because so that you can survive more when he enters the battle, right? When he enters the battle. And to follow up to that, when he's able to kill the enemy, he can immediately gain his health if if it's still a conditional, guys, if you're able to cast your ultimate at the correct time with the correct enemy, because if not, then you will not be able to proc the healing of his ultimate. hmm I mean, I need to give bonus to Heimdall as well because he has a passive to see or scout the enemy team from time to time, which a very good thing to have in this type of games. You really need to know where your enemy is at all times, if possible. So I think I'm gonna be giving bonus to that to Heimdall. Hmm. I want to put him an A because considering his damage as well, his damage really that uh he has a good damage as well. To be honest, Heimdall has a good damage as well. I mean, compared to the other four, Colossus also has a good damage, but compared to Heimdall, Heimdall has really an excellent damage. Uh, just even from coming from that three strike attack. I think I'm gonna be putting him on A. But that's not the category. The damage deal is not one of the categories. So I think I put him in B. I'll stick him on B. Yeah, I'll sticking him at B because how he disables other team is not really impactful. And the shield, I forgot the shield. It doesn't really it it can save other heroes or reduce damage, but basically it doesn't do crowd control. It doesn't give you shield. It just reduce damage from range attacks. So that's it. Unless it's like Cersei's shield, then that's gonna be very impactful. But just reduces damage. So I think I'm gonna be putting him or remaining him at B. Yep. If there's additional categories that I would add, like if for the damage, then I'm gonna be putting him on A, but it's not. But we haven't included the damage because we're focusing on um, solely a tank's role. I mean, they could be damage dealer as well based on your build, but we're focusing on only those four categories. So I'm just putting him back on B. Right. Next would be Hulk. Hulk. Right. Huh. Difficulty. Nope. Very easy to use. Very easy to use. Initiate wise, yes. He has good initiate. Sustainability, yes as well. He has a good initiate, guys. And sustainability, although he doesn't have shield, he does sustain, guys, by the healing that he gets every time due to his passive, which really is helpful. Even though it's not really that the healing is not really that high, but you can always proc his healing every time you use a skill. And his disable, guys, especially his skill 1, one of the best disable, guys, or the crowd control, even though it's for a single target. uh the skill 1 is really good because of the duration, how he crowd controls the enemy. I can even put him on S tier if, remember his second skill, if they didn't remove the knock up of his second skill, I can put him easily on the S tier. However, they remove that. I'm gonna be putting him back on the A tier because putting him here has his crowd control with his skill 1, his skill 2 with a knock up, and then the vacuum effect, which he jumps to the enemy and pulls all the enemies towards him. He could definitely be on the S tier, but they revamped him or changed the skill and no more knock up on his second skill. I'm putting him on the A tier. Hulk is easy. Hulk is really easy, guys. So next would be Namor. Namor. Difficulty. Not really difficult to use. Yep, not really difficult to use. He has a good sustain. He has a good sustain, guys. And also one of the highest damaging tanks in the game. However, we're not focusing on the damage. Initiate wise, yes, he does have a good initiate, and it's really impactful because you can really zone the enemies or trapping the enemies, which is, I'm gonna putting him in A tier based on his ultimate together with initiate, because basically his ultimate is his initiate attack. Sustaining wise, he can sustain during team fights, although he doesn't gain shield, but he heals a lot when he activates his passive. He heals a lot when he activates his passive. If they didn't change the way his ultimate if they didn't change how his ultimate worked, I think easily both of them could be A tier if they didn't change them. I'm putting Namor on the A tier as well. A tier as well. Although he doesn't have like a good crowd control, guys. Um, yeah, he doesn't have crowd control. He doesn't have knock up. I mean, he can pull enemies, but not really that long. I think I'll be putting him in B tier. Yeah, I mean, Once you put your SS or your ultimate, and then you're able to trap them, the problem is most of your enemies are gonna be blinking out, and most of the heroes in Marvel Super War does have blink skills. Without the blink uh, technical skill, all of them, most of them has blink skills. They can just easily go out on his ultimate. The problem is if he had a crowd control, then they could sustain them from leaving the ultimate area, right? But he doesn't have any crowd control skill, so I'm gonna be putting him on B tier. Yep, I'm gonna be putting him on B tier. So next would be Ronin. So yeah, guys, I thought it's gonna be an easy, not really easy, but I thought this video is gonna be easy. It's difficult, and we only have 10 tanks. What if I'm gonna be making a tier list with fighters? Then I'm gonna be having a hard time doing it. I think we're gonna be making a part 1 and part 2 when it comes to fighters. When it comes to fighters. So going to Ronin, guys. Difficulty, yes. He's on the intermediate difficulty, which puts him in the C tier. Because you need to master the timing of his skills. Both of his skills, from skill 1 to his ultimate, you need to master the timing of those skills. Because they have charging times. Even his second skill is not an instant hit, because when he fires his second skill, it goes from near to you and then goes far from you. So there's still a time delay when you're able to hit the enemy. So difficulty wise, he is an intermediate, not hard in a way, but on the intermediate side. That's why I'm putting him in C first. His initiate, hmm, also situational, and consideration of using the technical blink skill. So we're not allowed to use it, meaning his initiate is really not that impactful, or like a surprise initiate, like a surprise attack, because everybody can see the charge time of his skill 1, and when he's charging his ultimate, everybody can see it. So his initiate is really not that good in a way, and enemies can tend to move away from it, or even blink away, or more or less, which is the most annoying part, is that they can silence you, uh, especially from support. For example, if you're charging up with your ultimate and then Cloak and Dagger silence you, you could trigger your ultimate without. You can trigger your ultimate when the silence hit you, and then your ultimate is gone. So that's the downside of his ultimate. So I'm putting him in C. Sustainability, yes, he has good sustain because of his shield. Because every time you knock up an enemy, you gain a shield. Skill 1, if you hit an enemy, you gain a shield. His ultimate, when you hit an enemy, you can stack up his shield before entering battle, but during team fights, like you're in an actual battle, you don't gain anything. You don't gain shield. You can gain shield pre-battle, like you're stacking up shield, you're stacking up yeah, that's what I mean. You're stacking up your shield, and then you go to team fight, then that's good. But during battle, um, hmm, I think sustainably, he tends not to go to the base all the time because uh he gains HP when he gets the sand, and he gains shield as well. However, when he enters battle, the problem is there, you can't get a shield anymore because tendency is when you're in the battle, your health is gonna be reduced. You only gain shield when you're over your HP, your max HP. Then you gain additional HP. Then that's gonna be converted into shield. But during team fights, obviously you can't gain that shield back or that HP back because the tendency is that all your enemies is gonna be hitting you, and your HP is not gonna be that full all the time during team fights. Initiate wise, he has a good initiate, excellent, not really that excellent, but good initiate. However, and he has a good range. However, it takes too long to cast, and enemies can see it from a mile away. Unless you predict the enemy. I mean, basically, if you're using Sandman, blink is very important so that you can blink while you're casting your ultimate. However, blink is out of the picture, then your ultimate is really useless if you're not gonna be exactly predicting your enemy. That's why his difficulty is not really that easy. So I'm putting him on C tier. Disabling, yes, he does us disable enemies by stunning them into the wall. And there is a good buff recently, which is his skill 2 can now push all the enemies he can pass through. However, there's a however, guys, because however, there is a delay on his second skill, like he kinda charge up before he launches. So the mastery there, you need to find the right timing for Sandman. I mean, all of his skill, like skill 1, skill 2, skill 3, like the sand wall, and his ultimate, you really need to master him in enable for him to be really effective during battle, during team fights. So I'm putting him on C tier, guys. Because he's not really easy to use. Sandman is not easy to use. So I think he's gonna be on C tier for me. So next would be, wow, this video is very long. Right. So next would be Squirrel Girl. So difficulty wise, yes, she is difficult. Yes, she's difficult. Um, the difficult part is how you're gonna be bouncing from enemy to enemy without you being distracted by all what's happening on the battlefield, right? You need to be really focused, and you need to have a very quick eye in order for you to pinpoint which enemy you're gonna be bouncing off from enemy to enemy without bouncing to the enemy twice, because you're gonna be removing um, your skill 3. You're not able to bounce the enemy twice. Very difficult to use. Not really very, but difficult. Difficult to use. Initiate wise, yes, she has a good initiate by the bouncing part. But is it really that impactful? No. She is more of a disrupting tank rather than crowd controlling them. So her initiate is really not that impactful. Sustainability, yes, she has a good sustain based on her healing, also her passive, which is she gains energy and physical resistance when there are more than uh, the more enemies that you have around her, the more resistance you're gonna be getting. So it's a good sustainability. That's why when you see Squirrel Girl bouncing from enemy to enemy, she's very um, hard. I'm not if it's the right term, hard, or she's really strong enough to endure all the damage while just keep bouncing from enemy to enemy. That's the reason why she's so hard to kill when she's bouncing, due to her having her passive increase her resistance when there are more than one enemy around her. So that's a good sustainability, as well as her skill one. It has a good heal. It really does have a good heal, but it's situational because you need to max the acorn stack to the enemy to maximize the heal of her skill one. Disabling the other heroes. This is where she really doesn't have any. Yep, she doesn't have any. And the sustainability is situational, guys. I'm gonna putting on RD because she's very difficult to use. Is Her initiate is really not that impactful. Her sustainability is situational because you need to stack up the acorns, and she doesn't have crowd control or disabling abilities for her to disrupt enemies from killing your team. Basically, she's just a distraction if you're gonna be distracted anyways, and then if you're not, then you can focus on killing her team. But if you're easily distracted from the bouncing from her bouncing skill, then you're gonna be wasting your skills. Remember that she's gonna be immune to crowd control when she's bouncing, so you're gonna be wasting your skills. But if you're not really easily distracted by her bouncing from you from hero to hero, then that's fine. That's why her initiate is really that impactful. She doesn't have crowd control to help your allies. Her sustainability is situational. Both her healing and her resistance is situational. Very difficult to use, and basically she is on the D tier. Don't get me wrong, guys. She is fun to use, but she is a B tier. She is fun to use, guys. To be honest, she is fun to use, especially on free for all. She is fun to use in free for all, which is a very. She's gonna be easy to use when it's free for all because the map is very small. Then you can easily bounce from enemy to enemy. But once you're in the regular map, it's a whole different story, guys. Wait, last tank, the thing. The thing is difficulty wise very easy to use. Very easy to use. The only difficult part to use is his skill one. Um, well, not really. I mean, the difficult part there is where you need to hit the enemy so that you can block the, you can block when they try to retreat. But that's situational. But it's basically easy to use because you just click away and then they're gonna be hit or either way. So skill 2 very easy to use, doesn't really need mastery. You just stomp away and then you can damage all the enemies around you and while gaining shield, which good sustain for thing. Every stomp, guys, every stomp he gains a shield. Alright, every time he stomps and hits an enemy hero, he gains a shield. So I put him on a list. A tier. And his initiate, one of the best initiate in the game, which is his boulder, I think it's called Boulder Crash. It's very impactful. You can crowd control because it knocks up enemies. That's when that's the initiate attack or skill that that the tank has, then most probably it's gonna be on an A tier list. I mean, compared to Sandman, guys, basically they have the same impact, but the only problem is that when Thing launches his ultimate is very quick. Compared to Sandman, it's really long, and then you can see that there is a warning. Oh, there is a sand coming up. Obviously, Sandman is popping up or going there, right? But in Thing, you can instantly. It's like a blink. You can instantly hit the enemy while knocking them up, which is a very good initiate for Thing. Yeah, a very good initiator thing. The only thing why I can't put him on S tier, it's because he doesn't have crowd control. Yep, he doesn't have crowd control. The only crowd control that he has is his ultimate, and that's it. The only thing that you can do next is just stomp around the enemy so that you'll be able to survive their attacks by gaining shield while doing damage at the same time. That's why I can put him on the S tier. So I'm just gonna be leaving him at the A tier. Okay. So guys, sorry it took so long. This is my first time making a tier list for 10 heroes, and it reached us almost an hour. So I do apologize if it takes this long, but I'll try to make it as short as possible on the next tier list video. But let's just try to make it probably first part and second part, so that it's not really that long, guys. So thank you guys for joining me, guys. If you like this kind of content, guys, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so that you're gonna be notified on the next upcoming tier list videos. Alright, so thank you guys for joining me once again. Bye, peace out, God bless.